Today, I'm going to tell you about Mark Wesley Bailey, who in 1998 murdered his wife and his 2-year-old son. Now, the reason why this story caught my eye is because it took place in Virginia, and that's where I live. Now, hours after shooting his wife and his son, former Navy machinist Mark Bailey went to work casually as if nothing had happened. When he got to work, he brewed his coffee as normal, chin-wagging away with his co-workers. By the way, when it comes to coffee in the morning, I can't function without it. What about you? That morning, Mark's wife, Catherine Bailey, who was 22 years old, was found in their bedroom by police with 3 gunshot wounds. Their son Nathan was found in the bedroom next door, also shot. And I think what's hard to take when reading that, his body was actually hanging over the crib. So as he was getting over the crib, Mark shot him in the head. Fucked up. Now, Bailey, who was a Gulf War veteran, was sentenced to death, and prior to his injection date, death date, whatever you want to call it, he signed and started many petitions to stop it. In the weeks leading up to his sentencing death date on death row, family members, mental health advocates, former army veterans sent a massive letters to the governor to stop the execution. Supporters of him said that if his mental health had have been treated, then the outcome may have been different. And this is the point of the video today. Forgive me for my ignorance, but we know sometimes when I read multiple personality disorder, depression, stress, not in all cases, but in some cases, and in the case of Mark, bruv, you're just a dickhead. According to the trial testimony, Bailey began planning the murders well in advance. He told his co-workers that his wife had been receiving threatening notes. The gun he used to shoot his wife and his kids, he borrowed from his friends, and he bought the bullets weeks earlier. So you may ask yourself why? Why did he do this? Well, the 4-year marriage in Bailey's head was falling apart because he suspected his wife was having an affair. In an interview back in 2000, Bailey said he was suicidal at the time of killing his wife, and back then he didn't feel too good. On the morning of the killing, September 10th, 1998, Bailey is quoted as saying he got out of bed, put his gun to his head, but didn't have the courage to pull the trigger. Then at 4:25 a.m. that same day, he went to his wife and shot her in the back of the head 3 times. Motherfucker didn't have the courage to kill himself, so he kills his wife and then he blames it on depression? Nah, I'm not having it. Bailey was quoted as saying in that moment he felt numb and that his mind was in total shock, and if he go back to it, he wouldn't do it. Well, of course you wouldn't do it, dickhead. You'd be outside of jail. Convenient for you, isn't it? Then, at that moment, he heard his 2-year-old son wake up. That makes sense. If there's a gunshot wound in the house, the kids are going to wake up. And that's when Bailey started to panic. He said he didn't want to see his son see his mother dead. So using all 3 brain cells in his head, he decided, oh well, I should kill him, and he shoots him in the head. He went on to say he tried to kill himself after the shootings, but he couldn't. Surprise, surprise. So he hatched a plan to cover up the murders. He cut his phone line, and he broke like a window in the house. He cleaned up a lot of the mess, went to work, and told his boss he had received threatening phone calls. These phone calls were threatening concerning his wife's safety. And this is how the police found out, because Bailey's boss called the police go to the house, and they see the bodies. After several hours of questioning, Bailey confessed, and this is the point. He tried to kill himself, he couldn't. He could kill his wife. He tried to kill himself, he couldn't, but he had the audacity to kill his son. And then when he was pushed just a little bit, little nudge by the police, he confessed straight away. This guy was a pusillanimous. Now what's interesting in all of this, Mark and Catherine, his wife, they were actually cousins. The family, earlier in their life, tried to stop it, but by the time they turned 18, the family couldn't do anything. Them being cousins doesn't really have anything to do with Mark's actions, but it's an interesting observation anyway. At the July 99 trial, the once close-knit families were sitting opposite of the courtroom. Witnesses testified that Bailey himself had been raped twice and had attempted suicide several times. A clinical psychologist said that Bailey suffered from an extreme mental state and borderline personality disorder. Now again, I'm not a medical professional and I don't mean to sound disrespectful to those who are suffering, but to me, if you are not willing to kill yourself but you're willing to kill your wife, that says a lot. Furthermore, if you're not willing to kill yourself, and in many ways we're glad he didn't, nobody should, right? The fact that he had the goals to kill his son, fuck me. The psychiatrist also went on to say that Bailey was impulsive, and people who are impulsive have a tendency to sabotage their own relationships. The trial also unearthed a lot of information about Catherine and Bailey's marriage. For example, Mark Bailey and his twin brother, well, they swapped wives. And I actually find that hilarious. This isn't a funny story, but imagine this, right? One brother and the twin brother, they swap wives. So it's like, did the wives even swap? Like, did Catherine fuck his brother as his brother or as a husband? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, how does one embryo create two fuck ups? Bailey said that he became jealous. After the birth of their son, his wife only had time for their son. She began waiting tables and began to arrive home late at night. And this is what started his suspicions that she was having an affair. He started to believe his marriage was ending, and he became severely depressed and he just didn't know how to cope. Now, the jury sentenced him to death and to life in prison for the murder of his wife and son. Nathan's killing, him being sentenced to death, fell under a capital murder charge where the victim is under 14 and the suspect is over 21. And this is where it gets a little bit dirty for the families, alright? So after Bailey is convicted, the families start having a dispute over his wife Catherine's insurance money. See, Bailey's mother was the second beneficiary, and I believe the amount was around $125,000. But that's kind of a weird situation, right? The husband kills the wife just so happens to have her mother-in-law, the mother of the criminal, to receive her life insurance money. So it's like, wait, what? Now, what's interesting, the reason why Bailey's mother wanted this money is so she could pay for Bailey's legal fees, because obviously they knew he was going to life in prison, but they didn't want him to face the death penalty, and they wanted to go through appeals and appeals and appeals, etc., etc., etc. And by the fall of 2000, eventually they settled in a court case where one family would get half and the other family would get the other half. And as time went on, several family members, including governors and high-ranking officials for the Veterans Association, did speak to the governor to try and grant him clemency. Wait, is clemency the right word? I don't know. As in stay in jail but you don't die. So to summarize and to break down a timeline of this story, in 1993, Mark Bailey and Catherine get married, their first cousins. In 98, Bailey kills Catherine and their son Nathan. In 99, Bailey was sentenced to death. In 2000, the families agreed to a settlement on the life insurance for Catherine. The reason why this also became a dispute is because Catherine Logan, the mother of Catherine Bailey, knew that Mark Bailey's mother was going to use it for a lawyer. So that was the motivation. She didn't care about the money. She just didn't want them to get the money because she wanted him dead. And she didn't want him to be able to finance his way out of it with, a very good lawyer. And eventually, on July the 22nd, 2004, Mark Wesley Bailey was executed by lethal injection. Now again, I come back to what I said earlier. I am not trying to put people down that have mental illness. It's a serious issue. It doesn't get spoken about enough. And a psychiatrist looked at him and said, look, this guy, there's something wrong with him. He's not right. The jury didn't buy it though. And obviously the judge didn't buy it. I'm not a combat veteran. And we've heard so many stories about combat veterans and, the effect on their mind. But you're going to hear me say this quite a bit. Sometimes it's not a medical issue. Sometimes it's not your experiences in life. Sometimes you're just a wanker. I have a son that's about to turn 2 in February. The thought of someone killing him or me killing him, or when I, like now when I read these kind of stories, like I feel it a lot more because I have a son. I know the feelings. Like, do you know how much I love that precious boy? I didn't understand love. I never knew what love was till the day he was born. So for me to sit here and hear so many stories, right? Normally you guys know I'm a sarcastic pompous ass. Not this time. There's certain stories where you're just like, what the fuck? And my heart bleeds for Catherine's mother, because imagine losing your daughter. And the saddest part of this story is that all 3 members of the family, Catherine, Mark and Nathan, are now all dead. Why don't you guys comment? Tell me what you think.